My wife cheated on me a year ago. It was with another married man she met through the kids' activities. It lasted a few months before she broke it off, confessed, and begged for forgiveness. She didn't love him, but he was infatuated with her, pursued her hard, and eventually she gave in. We have 2 young children, and I couldn't bear to not see them every day. So I told my wife I would stay in the marriage, but it would be open from here on out. It was the only way in my mind I could maintain some dignity. She agreed, but she never saw anyone else or even pursued it. Her former lover tried to pursue her again, but she just blocked him. I didn't think I would see anyone either, simply because I didn't think anyone would want to be involved with me given my circumstances. But I ended up finding a woman in a similar situation. Her husband cheated and told her to cheat back to even things out. So she did with me. The whole thing didn't last very long, but my wife knew about it and just swallowed it. She would just cry and hold my hand when she knew I'd just been with her. It honestly made me feel like shoot, even though she cheated on me first. I started talking to another woman a few months after my short fling ended, but did not pursue it. I just couldn't hurt my wife like that again. So last week I told her I would like to close the marriage and go to counseling. She cried again, but this time it was happy tears, and we have our first appointment next week. Am I doing the right thing here? I do love her, and she spent a year watching me talk to women and ultimately sleep with one, and didn't complain about it. I also don't think I acted appropriately. I was hurt and wanted her to hurt like I did, but that's not healthy, and I ended up hurting myself in the process. I just need some advice. Edit. 2 common things have come up a lot in the comments, so I will address them. 1. Why she cheated. My wife and I have been married for 13 years and have young kids. So with that, the romance in our relationship took a hit. Life was all about the kids. So then AP, affair partner, comes along. They become friends. Then he tells her he has feelings for her. He tells her how stunning she is, that she is a goddess that deserves to be worshipped, and that her husband doesn't appreciate what he has. My wife told me all of this made her feel good, and she let it get physical because in the moment she wanted to experience what it was like to be with someone who worshipped her like that. She eventually realized she didn't have feelings for him, and after the initial thrill wore off, the intimacy wasn't even good. 2. After she cheated, I felt so emasculated and disrespected, I simply could not continue in the marriage unless we opened it. She did agree to this, and she could see other people if she wanted as well. But at the time, I just couldn't let what she did to me go unanswered and feel any self-respect. I ended up feeling like shoot for hurting her, but we have talked about it, and she does get where I was coming from. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. The amount of toxicity in this post is wild. It's even crazier that you were able to find another woman in just as toxic circumstances as yours. Am I the crazy one? Is it normal behavior to want to cheat to even up the score or get revenge on your partner? I have a feeling it just harms both partners in the relationship more than it helps anyone. Even the one getting revenge cheating has to live with how they hurt their partner for the rest of their lives. You two are going to need some serious couples therapy to see if you can ever move past this. That relationship might just be damaged beyond all repair. Comment 2. Have you ever read or heard of The State of Affairs, Rethinking Infidelity by Esther Perel? It is a book about why people cheat, how that affects their relationships, and sometimes how people repair their relationships post-infidelity. If you are truly interested in saving your marriage, and not just continuing the relationship for the sake of already being married, I think it might be useful to you. I think reading it together and then bringing your thoughts to a marriage counselor or couples therapist would be a great way to start working through what has happened and litigating how to proceed. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since my last post. So, we went to that first counseling session, and it was something. The counselor, let's call her Miss C, seemed nice enough, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was a bit too interested in my wife's side of the story. I mean, I get it. My wife was the one who cheated first, but it felt like Miss C was almost justifying it. She kept talking about how people make mistakes when they're feeling neglected, and I couldn't help but feel a sting every time she said it. Then, out of nowhere, my wife's former lover, the one she had the affair with, showed up at my work. He had the nerve to tell me that he was still in love with my wife and that I should let her go so she could be happy. I wanted to punch him, but I kept my cool. Instead, I told him to stay away from my family. He smirked and said something about fighting for love before he left. It was infuriating. A few days later, my wife's phone kept buzzing with notifications late at night. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who snoops, but curiosity got the better of me. It was him, the ex-lover. He was sending her messages about how he missed her and how they were meant to be together. She hadn't replied to any of them, but it made my blood boil. I confronted her about it, and she broke down, saying she didn't know why he was doing this and that she wanted nothing to do with him. Things took a turn when I got a call from the bank about some irregular activity on our joint account. Turns out, a large sum of money had been transferred out. I asked my wife, and she was clueless. We went to the bank, and after a lot of back and forth, we found out that the ex-lover had somehow gotten hold of our account information and made the transfer, claiming it was for a business investment my wife had agreed to. It was a mess, and we had to get the police involved. In the midst of all this, Miss C, our counselor, started acting weird. She was overly sympathetic towards my wife and kept suggesting that maybe we needed time apart. It didn't sit right with me, but my wife thought maybe Miss C had a point. I was starting to feel like everyone was against me. Then the biggest blow came. I found out that Miss C and my wife's ex-lover knew each other. They were old college friends. It all clicked. The way she was steering our sessions, her interest in my wife's affair, it was all part of some twisted game. They were manipulating us, trying to break us apart for whatever reason. I felt like a fool. I told my wife, and she was shocked. We decided to ditch Miss C and find a new counselor, someone with no connections to our past. It was a hard lesson, but we were determined to get through it together. The police managed to recover most of the money, and the ex-lover was charged with fraud. It was a small victory, but it felt good to see him face some consequences for his actions. Through all this, my wife and I have been trying to rebuild. It's not easy, and there are days when I wonder if we'll ever get back to how we were before all this happened. But we're trying, and that's something, right? Thanks for reading. Aita for confronting my mom after she called me an attention seeker. When I found a lump, why won't my mom believe I'm sick? I'm a 30-year-old female, newly single and living alone. I work full-time as a nurse. Since October last year, I have had strange symptoms develop. I saw my doctor because I am a nurse, and I know the symptoms I have aren't quite normal. I developed a lump in my neck and armpit as well, so I was slightly worried. What if I had cancer? My physician dismissed my concerns and did some testing, which was not overly abnormal. I eventually asked for a CT scan of my chest because of chest symptoms. My doctor continued to dismiss me, but did book me in for the lowest possible priority CT scan 4 months away. During the 4 months of waiting, I barely spoke of not feeling well to my mom, and she never asked. A few times I would tell her I'm not feeling any better, and she would tell me to stop thinking about it and it will go away. At one point, she did call me an attention seeker, looking for her attention. This really hurt me. Who else am I supposed to talk to? I had the CT scan done 3 weeks ago and was called by my doctor's office and told I have a mass in my chest behind my sternum. It's not humongous, but it is not normal and should not be there. They also found a spot on my lung. They sent me for an MRI in 3 weeks to determine whether it is cancer or an autoimmune condition causing it. In my area, Canada, people wait months to 1 year for an MRI, yet I had mine in 3 weeks. According to my research, there is about a 50% chance it's cancer, like I thought, or a 50% chance it's an autoimmune condition. The MRI has not been reviewed by the radiologist yet, so I have no report or results yet. I have nobody to speak to about this for support. All my tests I've done alone, and my mom couldn't care less. She doesn't want to hear about it, and if I do bring it up, she will get nasty and call me attention-seeking. She will minimize my experience and health problem, and she will actually blow it up to a huge fight. We haven't even spoken since I got my CT results. My mom's sister was chronically ill growing up and passed away in her adulthood. My mom always hated her and wasn't even allowed to go to her funeral. She always said she was neglected because her sister got all the attention. I feel that this may play a role in her resentment toward me about this, and maybe why she cannot demonstrate empathy for me. She has told me that unless a doctor tells her I have cancer, she will not provide me empathy. Yet she is missing the fact that the diagnostic process experience is very stressful and unpleasant, regardless of whether I end up being diagnosed with cancer or not. Is anyone able to help provide insight to this scenario? I feel so angry with her that I almost don't wish to speak to her again. She's not tried to reach out. How would you handle this situation if you were me? Do you have any insight on why she is behaving this way? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Got a similar mother in some ways. Ill health and loved ones is too much for her, so she doesn't let it into her reality. Uncertainty over health results in total denial. She might get herself together once you get a diagnosis, or she might not. Either way, she may not be able to give you the concern and support you need right now. You are right to be angry about this, but it's unlikely to change. I'm sorry. If your situation is like mine, it doesn't mean she doesn't love you, but it does mean she's not strong enough to make you feel loved. Is there anyone else in your life you can lean on at the moment? I found a good therapist really helps. I hope you get good support from other people and a full recovery. Comment 2. Respectfully, FCK your mom. I'm sorry you have such a callous parent like that. You don't deserve that, and it's cruel of her to be that way toward you. Being in the medical field, I'm sure I don't have to tell you this. But ultimately, we unfortunately have to be our own health advocates, just like you have been. Because as you've seen firsthand here, sometimes the people that should be caring and listening and looking out for us, like your mother, like your doctor, aren't. Some people will just drain you of your love if you let them. Do what's right for you and trust your instincts. Now, for the update. Hey, thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since my last post. So, the MRI results came back. It's cancer. I was right all along. The moment I heard, I felt this weird mix of fear and vindication. I wanted to scream, "I told you so," to everyone, especially my mom. But that's not even the half of it. I decided to confront my mom with the news. I thought, surely this would shake some sense into her. But when I told her, she just stared at me. Then she accused me of lying. She said I was making it up for attention, just like her sister used to. I couldn't believe it. I showed her the MRI report and she threw it back at me saying it could be forged. But here's where it gets crazy. My mom's been hiding her own health issues. Turns out she's been seeing a specialist for months now for her own mysterious symptoms. She never told anyone because she didn't want to be seen as weak or seeking pity. I found out because I ran into her doctor, who mistook me for someone else and started discussing her case with me. Talk about a plot twist. I was furious. How could she ignore my health while secretly dealing with her own? It felt like a betrayal. But it also made me understand her a bit more. She's scared, just like me. Scared of being sick, scared of needing others, scared of not being the center of attention for once. I didn't know what to do with that information. I was still angry, but I also felt sorry for her. I decided to take a bold step. I called a family meeting, inviting our closest relatives. I wanted to clear the air once and for all. At the meeting, I laid everything out. My diagnosis, my mom's secret doctor visits, everything. There were tears, shouting, and a lot of uncomfortable silences. But in the end, something shifted. My relatives were shocked, both at my news and at my mom's behavior. They rallied around me, offering support and promising to help with my treatment. My mom, though, she just sat there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. After everyone else left, she broke down. She apologized, said she didn't know how to deal with any of this. She admitted she was wrong about me and asked for forgiveness. It was a moment I never thought I'd see. But life doesn't stop for heart-to-heart conversations. The next day, I got a call from the hospital. There was a cancellation, and they could move up my treatment start date. It was a miracle considering the usual wait times. I had to make decisions fast. I started treatment last week. It's been rough, but I'm hanging in there. And my mom? She's been coming to my appointments. It's awkward and tense, but she's trying. I guess that's something. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for now, I'm focusing on getting through each day. Thanks for reading. Aita for dumping my boyfriend after he used my car and money, but wouldn't get a job. I know I'm the jerk for allowing this situation to occur in the first place, 12 months ago, my boyfriend/father of our 2-year-old son lost his job because he got injured. He recovered from the injury within 2 months. I paid from May 23rd to November 23rd because he told me he would be getting his job back on November 23rd. I believed him, and I think he may have fully believed this too. But November came and went. I tried on a few occasions to push him and support him, even breaking down the math and showing him the very minimum amount of hours he'd need to work at a job, any job, in order to fulfill the car note and insurance every month. Until January, he started to consider joining the military again. He had brought it up briefly a couple of other times over the last few years, but not seriously. He is now speaking about the military as if he has already committed with a recruiter. But as far as I know, he has not even entered a recruiting center yet at all. His next big obstacle he has put in his own way is his problem with Zaza. He will be doing great for a few days and then have some kind of upset where he makes a big fuss and leaves to go buy Zaza. Inevitably, he says he was doing so good. If I hadn't argued with him, if I had done this, if I didn't have an attitude, etc., then he could just finally quit. Unfortunately, I see this whole military thing as a new grift. Seeing your significant other, someone whom I once respected and who handled his own grown-up shoot as a grifter, is not a good place to be. I'm sure my view of him like this could definitely hinder his sense of progress towards quitting Zaza and joining the military. But I also am struggling to forget about November of 2023. He really made it seem like he would be back to work. Instead, he treated the unemployment like it was no big deal. It's almost June 2024, and I still don't have my own vehicle. We figured out a way to make necessary repairs to his vehicle this month. His most recent excuse for why I'm not allowed to drive it even half a mile to the grocery store down the street. He promised me he'd take me today, so I wouldn't have to Uber over there or take the bus or pay for the delivery. He started to fall asleep tonight. I asked if I could just take the car tonight, and he says, nope. I presented my case, and he says, you're just going to say whatever you need to so you can get your way. You sound crazy. Paying for the car shouldn't even be a problem for you since I'd drive you when you need to go somewhere. He takes me on the most basic local errands, maybe 1 to 2 times per week, by the way. He doesn't let me touch the air conditioner, radio, or windows. It is next level controlling and weird. It comes off as very petulant and unattractive to me. I feel like he's essentially using me. I mulled it over a bit and made a decision. I told him very calmly and respectfully that I had been paying on his car for 1 year. I could have been paying for my own car payment in that time, and that this arrangement doesn't feel fair and that I'll make one more, since I already promised to do so. But after that, he would need to figure out that payment going forward, because I need to take care of myself as well. I told him I loved him and that I know he can take care of this payment on his own. He didn't get angry, just scoffed and moved to the couch. Maybe I am being petty and definitely dumb for allowing it to go on as long as I have. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Why are you taking care of this controlling mooch? He has some effing nerve to talk to you the way he does. Cut your losses as soon as possible and consider it a lesson learned. Comment 2. I'm sorry, but have you read your own post? Don't ask a clown why he's a clown. Ask yourself why you keep going to the circus. You're embarrassing yourself. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, last month, things took a turn for the worse. My boyfriend's brother, who had been living with us, got caught stealing from the local store. It was a mess. Police showed up at our door, and there was my boyfriend's brother, handcuffed and looking guilty as sin. My boyfriend was furious, said he couldn't believe his own brother would do something like that. But the thing is, he did believe it deep down. He just didn't want to admit that his family could be as messed up as they were turning out to be. The brother's theft was just the beginning. Turns out, he had a whole slew of debts he hadn't told anyone about. Loan sharks started showing up, and one night, they broke into our house. They took everything they could get their hands on, which wasn't much, but it was enough to scare us. My boyfriend tried to fight them off, but there were too many. They left him with a black eye and a warning. The next day, he finally went to a recruiting center. Said he needed to get his life together for our son's sake. But the military wouldn't take him. Not with his record and the Zaza problem. He came home defeated, more so than I'd ever seen him. He didn't say much, just went straight to bed. The next morning, he was gone. Left a note saying he needed to clear his head, figure things out. That was a week ago, and I haven't heard from him since. I was left to deal with the fallout. His brother was in jail, my boyfriend was M.A., and here I was, trying to keep our son's life as normal as possible. I started working extra shifts, saving every penny. I didn't have time for tears or feeling sorry for myself. I had to be strong for my son. Then the landlord came knocking, said he hadn't received rent for 2 months. My boyfriend had been pocketing the money I gave him for rent. I was furious, felt betrayed, but I didn't have time to dwell on it. I negotiated with the landlord, paid what I could, and promised the rest by the end of the month. I started looking for a second job. It wasn't easy, but I found one at a local diner. The hours were long, the work was tough, but it was honest, and it paid the bills. I was determined to get us out of this hole my boyfriend had dug for us. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my boyfriend came back. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. He said he was sorry, that he'd been an idiot, that he wanted to make things right, but I was done. I told him he could stay until he found somewhere else to go, but we were through. I couldn't trust him anymore, couldn't rely on him. I needed to do what was best for our son, and that meant cutting my boyfriend out of our lives. It's been tough, but I'm managing. I've started saving for a car, something I should have done a long time ago. I'm making plans, looking forward, not back. My son is my priority, and I'll do whatever it takes to give him a good life. My boyfriend, well, he's on his own now. I hope he finds his way, but I can't help him anymore. I've got my own path to follow. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.